Kostya, just 3 months ago, I thought I was the happiest man in the world. I was enjoying my life. I thought I had the most wonderful family, a faithful and loving wife, a beautiful little girl, although only she now does not allow me to finally break down. All in all, an unremarkable marriage of a couple in love. As Tolstoy wrote, all happy families are similar to each other. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. It's about us. I met Angelina at her graduation party when she was not yet 18 years old. On that day, my friend Lyosha and I went to see his sister Lena get her diploma. She was so important in her new outfit and with a look everyone, I'm an adult expression on her face, that one was inevitably drawn to smile. So the three of us went, first to the official part. We clapped our hands a little at the presentation of diplomas, and then the action flowed into the festive part, where we watched a sort of mini club of the funny and inventive, or, as they called it then, a parade of variety miniatures. It was here that I noticed a girl from Lena's class. She was thin, which I always liked in girls, well-proportioned, with well-defined facial features and lush, wavy hair and a fancy hairdo, wearing a lilac short dress. Simply put, she was beautiful and immediately appealing to the eye. That she was clever was indicated by the gold medal for special achievements in education, given to her along with her high school diploma, and a gold-colored graduation ribbon with the inscription Medalist of the Year. I should say that immediately I liked her very much. I myself was then a fourth-year student at our university, specializing in computer science and computer technology, 22 years old. My name is Konstantin, shortly Kostya. Oh, how I courted her flowers, gifts, surprises. To have enough money, in the evenings I worked at a vegetable warehouse as a loader, though I already had a part-time job as a lab technician at the university. But anyway, by winter Angelina, at that time a first-year student at the Institute of Finance, and I became man and wife. How happy I was. We immediately rented a studio apartment on the outskirts of the city, which took most of the money I earned, and lived as a family of newlyweds, living from hand to mouth, which, however, did not prevent us from being happy. Of course, everyday life made its adjustments, and sometimes we had quarrels, but they invariably ended in a stormy reconciliation and never left a deep trace in our lives. Well, at least I thought so. About a year later, our little girl was born. We named her Angelika, so even her and my wife's names were similar. I loved her madly. Of course, diapers and onesies and the like did not add to the joy of life, but it seemed to me that on the whole nothing marred the flow of our lives. I tried my best to help my wife manage the household and raise the child, although it was not easy, given that at first we were both students, or rather I was already a graduate student. When I got my degree and got a job at a subdivision of Rosatom, it became easier with money, though there was less time to help my wife. We even had to hire a nanny. However, Angelina, or as I always called her Galia, successfully managed to finish university and got a job when our Angelika, shortly Laika, was 3.5 years old. She worked as an accountant in a company closely connected to Alrosa Holding, where the director was Arkady Namovich Starikov, and had a good salary to start with, so we could also afford to occasionally hire a nanny and part-time housekeeper to help Galia. We lived fine, almost no fighting. I earned good money, gradually made a good career, became head of the commercial department, but I did not deprive my family of my attention and care. Every penny came to the house, every free minute given to my girls. Flowers and gifts were for each, on even the most insignificant occasions. In our private life, too, everything was excellent. Galia was a passionate and loving woman, and there was not a day when we would not show our love to each other to such an extent that it often required a good pillow fight before we snuggled in each other's arms for a long time. By our daughter's 5th anniversary, though, the excitement had gradually subsided, but I took that for granted, because you can't burn as brightly over the years as you did at the beginning. Nevertheless, I had nothing to complain about, and I continued to enjoy our happy life. Then that day has come, Wednesday 3 months ago. I remember every detail as if it were today. I woke and dressed the child, since my wife was leaving for work later, and we all had breakfast together, after which I took my daughter to daycare and went to work myself in a good mood. In the last few days, Gelia's health had been a little off. She sometimes felt nauseous and had some strange mood swings, but, on the whole, she assured me that she was fine and that it was because of the workload. I must say that she has made impressive progress over the past 2 years, rising to the position of deputy chief accountant, and her workload was great, so I did not attach too much importance to her condition, believing that the next vacation, which we planned to spend in Cyprus, would remove all the symptoms and Galia would return to her normal state of being cheerful. And the vacation was only a month away. So whistling a confident tune, I went to work. About 2 hours later, I got a WhatsApp message from Galia. "Hi honey, I have a surprise for you." She sent a picture of the pregnancy test with 2 lines. "Everything is right. I did it on an empty stomach so it would be accurate." So I took the whole day off from work, and now I'm going to the antenatal clinic to confirm the test, to specify the timing and to get registered there. I'll try to get it done before lunch, and then I'll cook something delicious, and we'll celebrate when you get home from work in the evening to say that I was glad of the news is needless. We were already thinking that Laika was obviously missing a little brother or sister. "Oh honey, I love you so much. You gave me an extraordinary gift. A big hug, and tonight I'll try to show my love well." Well, laughed Jella, we made the gift together. So, I love you too, and wait for the promised show of love. I immediately told the boss to congratulate me on the addition to the family, and he even let me off early from work. I did not call Jella, deciding to surprise her. I did not think that the surprise was waiting for me. On the way home, I picked up my daughter and took her to my parents to tell them the news, and of course to let them hold their granddaughter with them, giving us some time alone. They understood everything correctly, and my father himself promised to take my daughter to daycare in the morning. It was obvious that they were happy too. I bought a cake, a beautiful bouquet, sparkling apple juice, a gold pendant, and hurried home. I opened the door silently, quietly went inside, expecting to remain unnoticed until the last so that the surprise would be complete. My wife was sitting in her room in front of the computer, chatting excitedly on Skype with her friend Caroline. She didn't even hear me come in and stand outside the door, but their conversation threw me into the deepest shock. "So tell me, Galia, what is your gestation period? It's already the 4th week. Does Kostya know about it?" "Yes." I told him first. "Only him? What are you talking about?" "Friend, are you sure it's Kostya's baby?" "Of course, who else could it be? Namak and I haven't been together for 2 months, and Max and I always use protection." I told him right away that if I'll want any more children, they would only be from my husband. A year and a half ago, from the very beginning, I told him that I wasn't going to ruin the family and that he shouldn't count on anything serious. "What about that handsome guy from the exhibition?" "I was almost toasted when he was giving you attention before your hubby." "Oh, please. Unconventional activities don't make babies," they both laughed. "Oh, Galia, you're playing with fire. You have such a great husband, and what do you need? If you don't love him, then..." "Don't lecture me, Caroline, you're no saint yourself." Harping on again about that. "I love my husband very much. But this is the 21st century. You've got to be more modern, my friend. Love and intimacy are 2 different things. Don't you have enough money not to need to trade intimacy for it? You can't measure everything by money and intimacy. If I only wanted material gain, I would have taken Arkady Naumovich out of the family long ago and married him. He spends money like sunflower seeds, and he doesn't require much intimacy. And Kostya, what do you mean, Kostya?" "Kostya is my husband. He is the father of my daughter and my future 2nd child. We have a spiritual closeness. He is kindred to me. He fits me psychologically and spiritually. He makes it easy for me, and that's why I love him. But you can't mix love and just intimacy. Besides, such adventures on the side add a certain thrill to family life. It spices things up, so to speak." So that's what they're talking about. If I had been stabbed with a red-hot bayonet under my shoulder blade that minute, I probably wouldn't have been as hurt and disgusted as I was by what I heard. The minute I stood listening to that conversation, all I wanted to do was disappear. I felt as if an invisible pressure had squeezed my temples and throat. Sweat was running in streams, my ears were literally ringing. Everything around me was not even black and white, but only black and gray. I don't remember entering the room. She turned around frightened and knew by the look on my face that I had heard everything. Her reaction was like a TV show. "You misunderstood. It was a joke." Realizing that making a fool of me would only make things worse, she fell to her knees and started crying. I'm sorry, please, for our daughter's sake. For the baby's future, she wrapped her arms around my legs and gave me a hug. Ugh, how unpleasant. I wanted to grab her by the hair and make her apologize, but my instincts as a father took over, and instead, I gently pushed her away with the bouquet. Then I took off my wedding ring and handed it to her. I quickly left and drove back to my parents' house, nearly getting into 2 accidents along the way. I stopped at the nearest supermarket and bought 3 bottles of sparkling water and juice. When I arrived at my parents' house, I went upstairs, got angry at my daughter, and was rude to my father. But then I realized my mistake, hugged Laika, apologized, and told her how much I loved her. Then I locked myself in my room and started drinking the sparkling water. I drank it like it was nothing, not even getting a buzz from the first bottle. I called my boss and requested a few days off. He asked what happened, but I told him I would explain later. He granted me a few extra days off, giving me a total of 4 days to recover. After finishing the 3rd bottle, I passed out. For the next 2 days, I avoided contact with everyone, crying and staring at a fixed point. My mother came by a few times, bringing me tea and asking me questions, but I didn't say a word yet. Then, on Sunday, my mother came in and told me that Galia had come to pick up Laika and me. I insisted that Laika stay with me and asked my mother to ask my wife to leave. My mother said that if we had an argument, we should try to resolve it ourselves because conflicts happen within families. If only she knew. Galia walked in. I was sitting on the floor, feeling miserable. Well, hello there. How are you feeling now? Are you doing better? Can we talk? How could you have the audacity to come here? What, do you hate me? I understand that you're hurting right now, but please try to hear me out. Before we continue, can you answer one question? Have I been a bad wife, a bad mother, or a bad hostess this entire time? Have you been neglected or hungry because of me, or have I failed to please you in bed? In any case, I responded. Not giving in to her attempts to provoke me, I am filing for a divorce, and Laika will stay with me. I will come tomorrow after work to pick up our things. Yes, that's not surprising. It's the typical reaction of a betrayed husband. She made a rude gesture and waved it in front of my face. Have you seen this? We can discuss it later. You're not even trying to listen to me and understand. Understand what? If you had told me that you met someone else and fell in love, I would understand. If you had accidentally done something while drunk and regretted it, I would understand. If you were seeking revenge because I cheated on you, I would understand. But in this situation, what is there to understand? How can you be so heartless and cruel, cheating for no reason, just for your own pleasure? And the worst part is that you don't even realize what you've done. And as for listening, I heard everything perfectly yesterday. I don't think I want to talk to you, see you, hear you, or be around you anymore. Let's just get a divorce without any more arguments. The court will decide about Laika, but I will insist. That's where you're mistaken. I won't give you a divorce. It's out of the question, and we won't be divorced for 2 years and 2 months. Just so you know, Kostya, I'm pregnant with your child. Mine? I'm starting to have doubts now. That's fine. You can tell everyone if you want. I can't imagine how you'll feel when we do the DNA test after the baby is born. I will even insist on it myself. It doesn't change anything anyway. Even if we don't get divorced now, I won't live under the same roof as you. You will. You'll do it willingly. Let me tell you more. You'll clean yourself up now. And the 3 of us, meaning you, me, and Laika, will go home. 1 hour should be enough. I hope. How can you be so sure that 1 hour will be enough? And if it isn't, tomorrow everyone at your workplace will know that you left your pregnant wife. They will turn their backs on you, and you know how your boss feels about that. You'll lose your job and your career will be ruined, and my friend will make sure you won't find any opportunities anywhere. They won't even hire you as a security guard. Oh, your friend Arkady. Do you know about him too? Yes, that's him. He's a serious guy. By the way, I saw him yesterday. He understood everything, and we decided to remain just good friends. But I can count on him whenever I need to. And what about that guy Max? It was more complicated with him, but I think I explained everything to him very well. I hope he won't bother us again. You have to understand that you're all I need. Come on, get ready. Just know that if I go home without you now, tomorrow it's your fault. I'll turn everyone against you, and what if everyone finds out the truth? I don't think you'll tell anyone. You'll only be embarrassing yourself. Besides, who knows what you've been imagining? You're acting so manipulative. I don't think you should insult your pregnant wife, although I deserve a lot of criticism. Fine, you win. But you should know that things will never be the same between us after all of this. Our old life is gone. I won't be able to forgive you. And why do you even need my forgiveness? You don't think what you've done is wrong, and you don't regret it. That's your attitude, Nate. Your perspective on family dynamics. People like you don't change. You see the world very differently. You and I will have 2 years and 2 months, and then either you will change or I will change. If you want a divorce after that, I'll let you go. But for now, let's not jump to conclusions. Come on, I'm waiting. We'll discuss everything at home, remember. There's no us anymore. I have nothing to talk to you about. I'm only concerned about our baby now, and Laika. Now please leave and wait downstairs while I freshen up and change. Reluctantly, like a submissive and weak individual, I went home with her. Everything in the house now feels foreign to me. The food tastes sour and the water feels off. I moved into the living room and tried to avoid any interaction with my wife. For the past 3 months, I have forgotten how to smile. I've lost my appetite and my ability to sleep, as well as my interest in life. I go through the motions without truly being present. Going home fills me with reluctance. While Gelia is pregnant, I try my best not to argue with her or cause her stress. However, I don't speak affectionate words to her like I used to. In fact, the only conversations I have with her revolve around her pregnancy. I provide for the family financially, but the happiness has vanished. A lot has happened since then. On April 5th, Gelia experienced a health scare and started having pains in her lower abdomen, presumably due to stress. Instead of waiting for an ambulance, I carried her to the car and drove her to a private reproductive medicine center, rather than our local hospital. We have a highly specialized center with an inpatient department, and there are only a few of them in the whole country. Doctors diagnosed her with an issue, but thanks to our timely arrival, they were able to prevent it. While Gelia was receiving treatment, I had a conversation with the head doctor, asking if their clinic could perform a paternity test before the baby was born. I understand that many people may judge me, but I still love my wife, and I can't help it. I even blamed myself for almost causing her to miscarry. However, if the test confirmed that I was the father of the baby, it would offer some solace. The doctor informed me that such a service is available, but they outsource it to another facility, so the results would take anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. Naturally, it came with a significant cost, depleting most of my bonuses and part of my personal savings. On the same day, a genetic sample was taken, and Gelia stayed at the clinic for another week. I brought her home after a week and received the results 10 days later. The test confirmed my paternity of the unborn child with a 99.99% accuracy. Both at the clinic and at home, Gelia cried and pleaded with me not to leave her, expressing how sorry she was for hurting me and declaring that I was the best. She asked for one more chance, claiming that she loved only me. I told her we would discuss it later, and that I couldn't distance myself from her at the moment. So, we decided to keep the family together, but I didn't want to leave it at that. The next day, I ran into Arkady Namiksh. He was just leaving his house. "Hi, I'm Kostya, Angelina's husband." Do you remember? Her fear was evident in the old man's eyes, and he stammered, "Listen, young man, let me explain." But I didn't listen. I held up the paper with the DNA results in front of him and said, "Take note of this. My wife is pregnant with my child. She is my wife, my family, my life, and I won't allow anyone to ruin it. So I'm warning you, if you come anywhere near my wife, try to contact her, send her any messages, or speak ill of her anywhere, I'll find countless ways to make your life difficult." I spoke assertively, making my points clear without any aggression or raised voice. In response, he started talking nonsense. "Boy, I understand completely. It's not what you think." I myself have mumbled something else, but I didn't listen. It was obvious that it wasn't in his best interest to talk about his affair. So, I turned and walked away. I wanted to learn more about this tough guy, Max. I wouldn't back down with him, maybe even confront him physically. But he disappeared without a trace. It seemed like he found out that I knew everything, so he decided to lay low. But I'll still confront him someday. It would have been nice to meet and talk to the guy at the exhibition, but he probably didn't know she was married, although I still don't like him. Lastly, I needed to have a peaceful conversation with my beloved. Not to stress her out, not to berate her for her actions, not even to punish her morally, just to understand. Our relationship was slowly improving, even intimacy was returning, but a serious conversation couldn't be avoided. Listen, I'm not going to leave you. I've already forgiven you, or at least I've let her think so. Despite everything, I love you very much, and that's the truth. I can't help it. But let's talk without raising our voices, without tears or self-deprecation. No promises or acts of remorse. Just explain me what was lacking in our relationship. Maybe I wasn't giving you enough attention or something was missing in our intimacy, and you sought it elsewhere. If it's my fault, don't be afraid to tell me. I just want to understand how it's possible to love and respect someone, say I love you and still cheat. I tried to have a dialogue with my wife in a polite, respectful, and constructive manner, without pressure or judgment. Well, here are the answers you know. You're so familiar to me, dear loved, almost a part of me. I love you more than anything in the world. But I wanted some excitement, something different. I wasn't looking for a substitute for you, and I didn't intend to humiliate you in any way. On the contrary, I felt guilt and remorse every time I cheated on you, and it only made my love for you stronger. Every time I cheated, I wanted to make it up to you, both in bed and in our everyday life. Perhaps it was my way of preventing our relationship from becoming dull and monotonous, of course. It's hard for me to understand such things, very hard. Maybe I'm not well versed in modern relationship psychology, but I'm willing to try and figure it out. But I also had another question. Okay, I understand. This Max guy, good looking and young, maybe he couldn't resist. But what attracted you to Namek? He's older, bald, with a belly and gray mustache. If I were a girl, I wouldn't even sit at the same table with him. Was it about money? But I made enough. We haven't lacked anything for a long time, Kostya. You're my love. Money has nothing to do with it. It was more about his charm, his sweet gestures, his smooth words. And why do we men always assume that if a young and beautiful woman is interested in an older man, it must be solely because of money? That's our misguided belief. I saw how scared she was when I told her that I had met him, but I reassured her by saying that I simply asked him to stay away from my family, or else I would make his life miserable. That's how the conversation went. Many people now think I'm a fool for forgiving and forgetting. They think I'm letting my guard down and that more surprises will come my way. But no, I haven't forgotten a thing. This is just a temporary truce. A frozen conflict, so to speak. She's expecting our baby, so now all my attention and care go to her. Then, we'll see what happens. Angelina, I promised Kostya that I would describe everything that happened from my perspective. But I don't even know where to begin. Right now, I'm disgusted with myself for what I did. I never imagined that Kostya would act the same way, and it made me want to disappear. Where did all of this come from? For as long as I can remember, I have always been loved and praised. Who's so beautiful and who has such lovely hair, and whose cheeks have those cute dimples? I've been hearing these compliments since I was a child. I was the youngest child in my family. My mother didn't want to ruin her figure, but eventually gave in to my father's pleas, and that's how I came into this world. I was always spoiled. I became curious about my own body at an early age, probably after myself and the boys in kindergarten showed each other body, and I discovered that girls are different from boys down there. However, I didn't think much of it at the time. But in high school, as we shared information with the girls, including what we found on the internet, I became more interested in understanding my body and why I had a certain part that boys didn't. I was used to receiving attention and considered it normal. I grew up, without false modesty, genuinely beautiful, and there were always admirers. Even in second grade, Vova Seleznev, who would always pull my hair, push me playfully, or spit chewed paper through a straw at me, slipped a note onto my desk one day. Unfortunately, our homeroom teacher, Violetta Leonidovna, caught it and read it aloud for everyone to hear. I like you so much that I tease you. The whole class laughed, including me. Somewhere deep down, I even enjoyed it. And oh, how jealous the other girls were, despite Violetta pointing out Vova's complete lack of grammar skills. I began maturing early. By the age of 11, I already had armpit and pubic hair, and my body started to develop. But even that felt normal to me. I started being friends with boys, usually older than me by 2 or 3 years. At that age, their curiosity about intimate things was starting to awaken. Naturally, they didn't have any experience, but the desire to touch and explore was already there. One of them and I, influenced by what we read online, started experimenting. He would touch me. I didn't know much about it, but I enjoyed the attention and the thrill. Around 7th grade, I started getting my period. I was scared at first, thinking it was because of the experimenting I did with the boys. But my mother, who noticed my stained underwear, explained to me the beginning of female physiology and what to do during menstruation. She also told me it was a sign of growing up. I was eager to become an adult, although I didn't completely understand what it meant. One day, Vidya, my best friend Carolina's brother, explained to me that becoming an adult meant losing it and then I would be able to get intimate. By that time, thanks to the internet, I already knew what intimacy entailed and that it was pleasurable for women. But I was still unsure about the specifics. Vidya, who was 4 years older than me and Carolina, came home drunk one evening and suggested that I grow up and become a woman. I wanted to grow up, but I didn't fully understand what becoming a woman meant. Vidya took me to the sauna, where he started making love to me. It made me feel proud that I became an adult, surpassing all the girls in my class, including Carolina. I still remember the jealousy in her eyes as she watched us. Afterwards, until the end of the summer at the cottage, the three of us engaged in intimate activities almost every day, always using protection that Vidya happily provided. By the end, I started enjoying the feeling of him making love to me. Maybe not as pleasurable as with an adult, but still pleasant. Either it was due to time or Vidya learning something new. Now, you might be wondering how I know what it's like with an adult. A couple of years ago, I accidentally walked in on my parents during their intimacy. The bedroom door was unintentionally left ajar, and I saw them having a good time together. After that incident, the door was always closed, and I never had the chance to see them again, even though I tried. A year later, I happened to be in a storeroom during school and fell asleep. I woke up to strange noises coming from the other side of the wall. It turned out that the head teacher's office was next to the storeroom, and my mother worked as a head teacher in the school. Through a small knot hole in the wooden partition, I witnessed my mom engaged in intimate activity with the school's gym teacher, a fit man who I considered old at the time, but was actually around 30. The gym teacher made love to my mother. That's when it hit me. "Fool," I screamed. "Did he release inside you? What if you conceive?" My mom looked guiltily at me and mumbled, "Don't worry, if that happens, we'll get married no way. I don't need him, and I'm too young to be a mother. Next time, only with a protection." Vidya, thrilled at the prospect of future encounters, readily agreed. I cleaned myself up as best I could, trying to wash away any traces, and we left the sauna as if nothing had happened. Naturally, the next day, I bragged to Carolina that I had become an adult, and she immediately approached my brother to try and become one too. It didn't take much convincing, and that same evening, all three of us gathered in the sauna. Vidya made love to Carolina for the first time. Throughout the summer, the three of us engaged in these activities almost daily, always using protection. I must admit, towards the end, I started to feel good making love to Vidya. It wasn't as intense as with an adult, but still enjoyable. Maybe it was due to practice or Vidya's improved technique. I had noticed before that my mom would meet with various men when my dad wasn't around. She would receive rides in cars, get flowers, and sometimes even receive other gifts, which she would hide from my dad. Occasionally, I stumbled upon these hidden treasures and tried them on. I imagined that one day I would receive such gifts too. But it didn't last long. That year, my father caught her with her lover and left, packing up his things. I remember it was a shock to me. I had no idea that my mother's innocent fun could lead to this. I mean, really, what's the big deal? A guy spends time with you, and mom loved dad. And she proved that by bringing him back into the family after a while. I overheard them talking about it once when I was visiting dad while he was gone in his rented apartment and fell asleep in the bedroom there. When I woke up late, I heard the conversation in whispers from the living room. "Leosha, but I really love you. Yeah, and that's why you hang out with others, isn't it, honey? There were only a few times, but I never thought about leaving you. What happened was just spending time together, not love. It was just for my health. For you, maybe, but for me, it feels like a betrayal." Imagine it was me who was hanging out with others' mom was quiet, and then she let it out. I can't say I'd like it, but if that's all it is, I can take it. Do you already have someone? What an idiot. I don't have anyone while you've already spent time with a dozen people. What are you talking about? What dozen? How many friends have you had? Mom was quiet again. Why do you want to know? You'll always remind me of it, won't you? Tell me straight out. How much? If you don't tell me, then why did you even start this conversation in the first place? Let's just divorce, and that's it. Live your life however you want and spend time with whomever you want. Just don't try to lie. I've already checked some things. And I'll know right away if you lie. Mom tried a few more times to dodge it, but finally reluctantly confessed. 555 what? 5 times or 5 people, 5 friends? Do I know them, some of them? Yes. How long ago did you start? Well, remember when we went to your village for your sister's wedding? 4 years ago. So. Well, you got drunk, and I got a little drunk too. That's when the groom's witness helped me get you into bed, and he started getting close to me. And I already wanted it so much. I wanted to be with you, but you. So he helped. He did, huh? Ninka was getting close to me too, but I didn't go with her. What? That girl. She bothered you. If I had known, I would have confronted her. And she is calling herself my friend. Well, why do you think you're better than her? You had real fun with the witness. So? He's single, but you're not single. Did you enjoy it very much? Did he have more? I don't really remember. I just wanted it so badly that I felt a tingle in my lower belly, and I was afraid something might happen bad. So I let it happen. But you're better than him. He just did it, spent some time with me, and then finished. I didn't even have enough time to enjoy myself, so I had to finish myself. What? He finished in you? How could you let him do that? What if it's a baby? Honey, what baby? Have you forgotten that I'm on birth control? And anyway, I'm only having children with you. It's my principle, otherwise it's not a family. She has a principle. Ha ha. I wish you weren't spending time with others. Daddy raised his voice, but then they realized I was right behind the wall and shut up. I didn't hear anything else, but I firmly remembered that I could only have children with my husband. A couple of weeks later, Dad came back to the family. I didn't really know what he and Mom had agreed on, but I understood that as an indulgence, Dad was allowed to spend time with others occasionally. I don't know if Mom had the same permission, but it seemed to me that sometimes she did allow herself to go out. But that's inaccurate. My life, on the other hand, was booming. All 4 years of high school and freshman year, until Kostya and I got married, I used my body for intimacy, making sure that I was always protected if anything more than just hugging happened. Gradually, I realized what my body needed in order to get maximum pleasure, and I learned to guide the people I had a connection with so that they would provide it. And I got so caught up in the experience that, even when I started living with Kostya, I always lacked something. No, he was gentle, always gave me gifts, made sure that I felt good, including in bed. And I felt better with him, perhaps, than with anyone else before him. But my desire for variety, and I had tried different people by then, and they all felt and gave me happiness in different ways, kept me going. When I was in my second year, we had a baby girl, a big one, 3.5 kilos. My husband offered to name her Angelica. She was like an angel, blue eyes and smile, such a tender smile, despite the lack of teeth. Fortunately, I had enough milk to feed her, so we avoided all these problems with allergies, as say my friends. Unfortunately, that had some effect on my body, although my husband assured me that he liked the slight deform. Almost immediately after childbirth, I began to work on my body, and despite the lack of time, since I continued to study without having a degree, still found a way to occasionally go to a fitness center, thanks to my husband's salary, which by that time allowed it. So my body quickly got into shape, although I remained somewhat rounded, not as toned as it had been before the pregnancy. But my husband said he liked it, and I preferred to believe him. After graduating from university, I immediately got a job as an accountant at the Sibir Transport Company, after which it was finally possible to call our financial situation stable, and we were even able to hire an assistant to take care of our daughter. Even there, I continued to go to the fitness club, but now close to work. It's convenient. You take your gym bag with your uniform to work, and they give you towels at the club. That's where I met the trainer Max, who reminded me of an Italian slightly curly hair, a firm, straight nose, and very fast speech and gestures. Well, he looked like Marcello Mastroianni in his youth. They called him Marcello in the club, and they laughed at that, but I never understood why. By this time, the abstinence I had maintained, all activities with my husband alone, was already very stressful. So Max's friendly interactions with me were received rather favorably. He kept suggesting that after workouts we go to the fitness bar, drink juice or an energy drink, sit and chat, and once offered to give me a massage. I have to say, I love massages. All kinds. Both relaxing and energizing, but after training I wanted to relax. And that was exactly what Max gave me. Building a friendship with Max lasted about 6 months, when gradually I began to trust him more and more. So for example, when he was massaging my legs and back, tried not to notice when he seemed to casually getting close and went to the sauna. I was still self-conscious about my body at that time, but Max assured me that it is as beautiful as a work of art, and just begging for appreciation. Not surprisingly, at some point, I suddenly found myself lying comfortably on the couch, and Max was already preparing to give me a massage in a more intimate way. And even though I really wanted to at this point, I found the strength to push him away, saying that without proper protection, no way. Unfortunately, he didn't have any protection that day, and I had to leave the club unsatisfied, although Max repeatedly tried to persuade me to engage in a lesser form of intimacy, just a brief touch, as he said, and to stop the act at the last moment. But I firmly refused. On the other hand, on this day my husband had a special day off. Our intimacy by this point could not be called exciting. There is always a certain routine in a long marriage, and that's what happened with us: 3 basic positions face to face, from behind, and on top. My husband didn't like to try new things, and I was afraid to suggest it to him, in case he asks where I got my experience. But today he noticed my enthusiasm, though he took credit for it. On my next visit to the fitness club, it was evident from Max's eyes that he couldn't wait until it was time for a massage. And even though I myself was eager to explore new boundaries in my marriage, I still completed all the exercises I had planned earlier, and only after the sauna and shower I showed up at the massage parlor. Max did not spend much time working on me, quickly relieving the tension in my muscles. He immediately made love to me intensely. What a long time ago that was, when unfamiliar intimacy entered my life. Like a food lover, I enjoyed trying new things. "See how much I longed for this," Max exclaimed proudly. "It was all saved up for you." After that, he intimately hugged me. Let's agree once and for all, I have someone to start a family with, and I'm not going to harm that, and if you want to be a part of my life, then always use protection. Your husband won't find out, even if you conceive. He'll think it's his, and it's much nicer to be intimate without protection. Don't you understand? If it's not your husband's children, what's the point of having a family? Being intimate outside of the relationship is all right. It can be pleasurable, but children are serious. And don't you care if your child, your blood here, grows up somewhere else? What's the big deal? Max waved his hand, but still, he put on another protection, and then we engaged in intimacy again. I didn't understand what he was saying in my excitement, but then his words came to my consciousness, and I was quickly brought back to reality. Your spouse probably can't satisfy you like I can. He looks like he doesn't have the same level of satisfaction. So, seize the moment. Experience happiness with someone who can satisfy you more. I pressed both hands against his chest and pushed him off me as hard as I could, so that he just fell off the couch onto the floor, which was carpeted. All happiness vanished under the weight of anger. Never. Don't you ever talk about my husband like that. You're not worth his little finger. He is so much better than you. I'm the one who isn't worthy of him. My feelings are the one lacking something, and he's a better person than most. And trust me, I know what I'm saying. And so, with anger inside me, I went home. And at home, I felt so ashamed of myself. And in the evening, I was as kind as I could be with my husband. And we had a wonderful intimate experience, so comfortable and peaceful. Again, my husband didn't understand anything, but he was happy about the closeness. I didn't go to the gym for the next week, but then that longing feeling in my body came back, and my imagination brought up memories of how great it had felt on the couch. Finally, I made up my mind. When I got to the club, the first thing that caught my eye was Max's beaming face. "You came after all. That doesn't mean anything," yet I took my time to forgive him. After practice, I was in the massage parlor again, but before I let Max touch me, I talked to him about a set of rules that he had to follow if he wanted to continue our connection. First, always use protection. Second, never disrespect my husband. And third, no one here or anywhere else should know about our relationship. If I find out anything has been shared, I'll end our connection. Max promised to follow the rules, and we had a wonderful intimate experience, which reminded me of my youth, when I explored new experiences with men without any worries about consequences. As time went on, my husband and I were doing great, but suddenly I found out that Arkady Naumovich Starikov, the director of the parent company, had his eye on me. When he visited us, he always gave me compliments and brought gifts, even when they weren't expected. Once he invited me to have dinner with him in a restaurant, saying that he wanted to discuss something with me, and he made everything easy yet respectful. He was a man in his 50s, with a gray mustache and a bald spot in the front, but it didn't make him any less appealing. And even his slight stomach did not make him seem out of shape. On the contrary, he had a certain strength, like a boar, I'd say. At dinner, he mentioned that his marriage had been strained for a while, and that he felt his wife didn't see him as fully masculine, to which I complimented him on still exuding masculinity. As time passed, his advances became more persistent, and once he gave me a piece of jewelry, saying that a beautiful neck like mine should have some adornment. I was immediately reminded of the gifts my mother had received. This time he asked me to help him, that is, to show, contrary to what his wife had said, that he was still a capable man. I immediately understood what he was trying to insinuate, but I didn't see anything threatening in it. He even gave me a gift to show his appreciation. And that evening, after my work, we went to an apartment belonging to one of his friends who was away on a long trip and gave him the keys so he could check on the apartment and water the plants. That's where it turned out that Namek, as I began to call him, didn't have any protection with him. He almost cried, realizing that being intimate was being postponed. So I found myself with a second special someone, with whom I met about once every 2 weeks during lunchtime. As it turned out, the director of the parent company had an office in our company building, and there was a lounge with a sofa in it. That's where we would meet. I must say that Namek was quick, and our intimacy did not take much time, no more than 15 or 20 minutes, after which I could consider myself free. All these encounters with my lovers brought up conflicted feelings in me, and during these times I was especially kind to my husband. Our intimacy life even improved. You could say it blossomed. Namek periodically gave me gifts for my birthday, on special holidays, and sometimes just as a surprise. Gradually, I accumulated a lovely collection of jewelry, made of silver and gold: a bracelet, 2 chains, a ring, and earrings with semi-precious stones. About a year ago, I had the chance to take part in the Alrosa Diamond exhibition, to which Carolina, my husband, and I had been invited. Namek, who felt that I was getting a little tired of our connection, tried his best to keep it alive, so he invited us as a couple and promised me a delightful spread of food. The party after the exhibition was quite lively, with music and dancing. The band Boyarak was playing, and there were tables of appetizers. Namek introduced us to one of his business partners, a well-dressed man named Valery Simonovich, but after a short time we were all calling each other by name and chatting informally. Valery asked me to dance several times, both fast and slow, and soon it became clear to me that he had feelings for me, as I could feel his growing attraction when we were close to each other in the dance. Valery was quite thin and good-looking, and I thought he was starting to make my husband jealous, so I prudently started to keep my distance. But then Carolina intervened. It turned out that Valery realized that I didn't want to continue any involvement with him and decided to communicate through my best friend. She came up to me and, looking around secretly, whispered, "I have something for you." Then she put in my hand a small velvet case with the logo of Alrosa, which was a ring of white gold with a small diamond. "What is it?" I exclaimed, barely having time to take out the contents of the case. "It's from Valery. He's offering you a brief moment alone during one of the dances and a brief connection. Is he out of his mind? Kostia's here, and he won't like it at all if I dance with Valery, much less disappear anywhere." "I'll take Kostia upon myself," she winked enigmatically. "Caroline, how do you suggest we handle this? Do I just go and befriend a stranger in front of my husband? It's not a bad idea in theory, and they say the simpler, the easier it is to execute. You think it's a bad plan?" The plan isn't bad, I said thoughtfully. But what if I get caught? Don't I have enough trouble with 2 friends? What should I do then? You go now, as if you wanted to go to the bathroom. There's a private room near the toilets, already rented by Valera for you, and I'll befriend Kostya. I'll dance with him, chat with him, and distract him from thinking about you. Well, listen, Caroline, if anything bad happens, we can't be friends anymore. With these words, I headed towards the ladies' room, and my friend went towards my husband. Valera was already near the ladies' room, and he smiled happily when he saw me. You came after all, he exclaimed, then took me by the arm and led me through a discreet door nearby. Behind the door was a small room with a closet, a table, 2 chairs, and a sofa. On the table was a bottle of sparkling juice and fruit. Let's not waste any time, my date said in a whisper as he clinked the juice glass with mine. I didn't resist, thinking that the sooner we finished, the sooner I could return to my husband and reassure him. When we were both making love, Valera embraced me and started hugging me passionately. Then he pushed me onto the couch, but I stopped him. Didn't Caroline tell you that I couldn't do this without protection? No, my new friend mumbled confusedly. What's the issue? The kids. I already have a daughter, and I haven't planned on having a second child. And even if I want to, I would only want to have a baby with my husband. So, what should we do? Didn't you bring a gift if that's all it is? Here you go. It's in my pocket, and I went to retrieve my clothes, though I was already quite excited by this point. Wait, my friend rushed towards me. But can you at least make me happy? I can do that, but only if you make me happy too. I'd be happy to do that. Valera quickly lay on the couch on his back, his excitement evident. We made love and got intimate in other ways. That was amazing, my friend exclaimed while catching his breath. I didn't even expect such intensity. You've made me happy. Yeah, I confirmed, lazily playing with his body, and then I got up and began to get dressed. I have to go. My husband must be worried. You go ahead. I'll catch up with you later. I hugged my friend on the lips and quickly left the room, only to run into Caroline. Where have you been? Kostya was about to call the police to look for you. Where is he? He's coming this way. I said you were in the bathroom. What happened? My husband shouted from a distance. Are you okay? I'm fine, but I must have eaten something that didn't agree with me, so that's why I had to leave. I was barely able to handle it. I immediately found myself lying. But I'm okay now. My husband hugged me tightly. I prayed to God that he didn't notice anything, because there was still some food on my lips. Luckily, he didn't notice, and we walked back into the hall arm in arm. After another half hour, we all went home together. Every time after my mistake, I felt guilty, and I tried my best to show Kostya how much I loved him. That evening, we had an incredibly intimate moment, and Kostya thought that I was happy for the sight of diamonds at the exhibition. He didn't realize that all those diamonds meant nothing to me. Even the small one Valera had given me meant a lot more because it was a personal gift. Kostya was also mine, my own and my favorite. And now, I am carrying our future child, which only makes him dearer and closer to my heart. That's why I wrote down everything that happened, without exaggeration, reflecting on it, and wanting to make amends. And why did Caroline ask those questions? And why did I have to answer them?